So we start John 6, and it is unclear whether this is taking place the day after the previous John chapter or not. But we do see that it begins with a ceremony where the heads of the wall gather in order to proclaim the new recruits of the night's watch. And so we see they gather in the sept at the wall, and we also find that it is mentioned that those who join the watch must say their vows in view of their gods. And so it is noted that here the wall, interestingly enough, does not have a god's wood. We find that instead the wall has a sept, which is curious when you think that the ancient histories seem to imply that the wall makes sense to have been built by beings who did not worship the faith of the seven, but in fact were worshipping the heart trees. And if a recruit wants to go and say their vows, they have to do it in the haunted forest to the north. And as I have pointed out in my theories, this makes sense if you consider that the wall originally was built by the children of the forest and the forces of magic, only to then fall to the Andal invasion, and then they're the ones who built the castles upon it to guard against the wall from the north. As we see, the wall's castles face south and don't have any defensive walls, implying that they don't expect any attacks to come from the south. So these were built by the invaders building against the wall. And it is curious, as Mormon even says, that the castle does have no need of a godswood. Beyond the wall, the haunted forest stands as it did in the Dawn Age, long before the Andals brought the Seven across the narrow sea, which would, when you think logistically, seem to imply that what is being said here is that the Andals came across the sea and removed the weirwoods from everywhere south of the wall. Now, interestingly enough, Sam wants to say his vows in front of the heart tree as well, which is curious as it is noted that House Tarley does not keep the old gods. They are of the faith of the seven. So Sam's actions here are questionable. Why exactly does he want to go with John to go to the heart trees to say his vows? He is keeping himself close to John for some reason. Now, John is named to the stewards and becomes enraged at this. He wants to be a ranger and goes so far as to note that he could smash the wall in an instant, damn the world, which is rather interesting symbolism given that he is supposedly being raised as the Azor Ahai savior figure here. So what exactly would John smashing the wall actually entail, other than actually uniting the people by removing the wall that divides them? It is Sam, however, who interjects and tells John that clearly what is happening here is the heads of the wall are actually grooming him to become a new Lord Commander under Mormont. He even goes on to tell John that it is clear that they are doing this as he himself watched it happen. His father, Randall, went to bend the knee to Highgarden and Lord Tyrell when he was young. However, over time, he was replaced by Dickon as his heir and so was left behind, but he still watched as he saw that the heir is groomed for command by being like a shadow to the one who is ruling. And so Sam and John head out north of the wall to go and say their vows, and we see that by the time they reach where they are going, it is now sunset, implying that it takes a good few hours to reach this grove. So it clearly isn't that far from the wall, but we do find here that there is a grove of 9 weirwoods growing in a circle. And we find here that John notes that they do grow in the wolfswood, but you never see more than 3 together in any location, so 9 here is actually something of an oddity. And it is also noted that the leaves of these trees have created a blanket upon the forest floor, and they are noted to be blood red on top, but black rot beneath. Now, given that there has previously been symbolism noting that the weirwood tree's hand-like leaves are an allusion to blood on your hands and the concept of being guilty of something, the fact that we are now seeing these blood on your hand leaves with black rot beneath them seems to imply that the weirwoods are indeed malicious in their intent. Sam interestingly notes that he fears the wildlings as they pass out of the wall, which is odd considering that there is never any actual threat of the wildlings attacking, yet he brings it up anyway for some reason. And then later, as they enter the circle of trees, he notes that the old gods are watching, which makes me wonder whether Sam is just being superstitious and scared here, or whether he actually is meant to be showing us that what he is saying is actually true. The old gods are watching. And so we see that they begin to recite their vows to the tree, and the fact that this is allowed and not everyone being forced to take the vow at the sept implies that since the trees are older and an older religion, that this custom began with the weirwood trees. So the Night's Watch was originally a custom from before the Andals actually came and invaded. Night gathers, and now my watch begins. It shall not end until my death. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. I shall wear no crowns and win no glory. I shall live and die at my post. I am the sword in the darkness. I am the watcher on the walls. I am the fire that burns against the cold, the light that brings the dawn, the horn that wakes the sleepers, the shield that guards the realms of men. I pledge my life and honour to the Night's Watch for this night and all the nights to come. And it is clear that the Night's Watch order and this vow obviously originates in some way because of a dispute caused by hereditary infighting, as we see that the whole concept of having no children and taking no wife and holding no lands means there is no need for dispute regarding succession. As we see with the ancient mythos so far, I believe that the three-eyed raven was in actual fact meant to be an inherited elected ruler. So there is no need for inheriting. However, at some point in the ancient histories, there was conflict because someone tried to inherit it through a bloodline. And again, this brings up the concept that the various orders that we see around this world all seem to stem from this same mythos, as the Night's Watch has similarities to the King Guard, the Maesters, and also the Dothraki Blood Riders. They all have a very, very similar code of conduct. They serve, they do not father, and are sworn to serve for life. And the fact that most of these locations actually refer to the members as their brothers, it makes me wonder if this is because of the mythos of Bran the Builder and his brother slaying each other in the kinslaying, which would explain why the kinslaying was such a big part of their culture and being taboo, and why these institutions see being a brother as being a sacred thing, and coincidentally enough, ban women from being a part of their order because in the ancient mythos, the woman was the one who created the evil. The woman was the night's queen. Now we get some more imagery which seems to correlate Ghost with the weirwoods to John as he briefly sees Ghost walking from between the weirwood trees and notes that the white fur and red eyes reminds him just like the trees. However, they are quickly distracted by the fact that Ghost has appeared carrying something, and so John completely forgets this connection which creeped him out as they realise that what Ghost is carrying is in actual fact a hand.